Hello everyone. Welcome back to the session of English. In this session, we are going to continue with one-word substitutions. This is part 4. In our earlier sessions, we have already discussed one-word substitution till part 3. In this session, we are going to revise one-word substitutions on the basis of some categories. So in this session, we are going to categorize these one-word substitutions on the basis of phobia. One-word substitution actually refers to word for a group of words, or you can say from this chapter we get the questions of a type in which a question is given to us and we have to select a word for that. So that is one word substitution. So in this session we will discuss definition of phobia and words related to phobia. So let's begin. The word phobia is derived from the Greek word phobos, which means fear or morbid fear. It is often used as a suffix to indicate a strong, irrational fear or aversion. Aversion means dislike to a specific object, situation, or activity as seen in various phobia names. Now, phobia, for example, if it is the phobia or it is the fear of anything, first, we'll write that particular word and after that, we'll add phobia to it as a suffix to make it a phobia of something. For example, if I say phobia of water, that will be hydrophobia. And we know well that hydro is a root word for water and phobia refers to fear. So, hydrophobia refers to fear of water. So this is how we define hydrophobia. So hydro is used for water and phobia for fear, and phobia is used as a suffix. So whenever we write phobias, phobia word comes to the end of the word and the starting word will be the root word of which the phobia is. Now let us read some phobias over here and try to learn them for a long time. So let's try to learn these words with the help of some root words. Now let us see. The first one is fear of high places. So whenever there is a fear of high places, it is known as acrophobia. So acro refers to height and high places. So phobia refers to fear. So acrophobia is fear of high places. Fear of solitude. Now solitude means soul things. Soul means alone. Now, this is known as autophobia because auto refers to self and autophobia refers to fear of solitude. Fear of depths. It is known as bathyphobia. Then fear of ugliness. This is known as cacophobia. Fear of ugliness refers to when a person feels or fears of being ugly. So that is known as fear of ugliness. Now let us move further. Fear of time. Now, when some person is in fear of passing time when someone fears that time passes very fast. So that is known as fear of time and that is known as chronophobia. So chrono basically refers to the sequence and chronophobia, this is fear of time. Fear of being confined to small places, or you can say fear of closed spaces. So when someone fears of closed spaces, this is known as claustrophobia. Fear of morbid compulsion to drink. This is known as dipsomania. Fear of insects. This is known as entomophobia because for insects we use a root word that is ento, and entomophobia is a fear of insects. When somebody is in fear of insects. Fear of marriage. Now, the root word for marriage is gamos and the fear of marriage is gamophobia. Now, fear of marriage refers to a person who dislikes marriage or a person who is in fear of being married. So that is called fear of marriage and that is known as gamophobia. Now, every person has some type of phobia in him. Maybe a single thing or a simple thing which we don't take seriously, there is also a phobia. Phobia of anything it can be. For example, fear of traffic, fear of closed spaces, fear of open spaces, fear of height, fear of many things. We face many types of fears. Sometimes we even don't know that we are in fear of something or not, till or unless we go through it. So, fear of knowledge, this is known as gynophobia. Fear of women is gynophobia. Now, there are several words which can have their synonyms as well. So, might be or maybe there are many words for a simple fear. For example, fear of knowledge is known as gynophobia. It might be called something else as well. Fear of clowns is chlorophobia. Fear of clowns is coulrophobia. Fear of birth, that is tocophobia. Fear of writing, it is graphophobia, because writing refers to grapho and graphophobia refers to fear of writing. Then fear of blood. Now you must have seen in your reports that it is written hemoglobin. Now for blood we use the word hemoglobin, and from that word this word has been derived, that is hematophobia. So hematophobia refers to fear of blood. Fear of traveling, that is hodophobia. Fear of poetry, this is known as metrophobia. Now metrophobia also refers to fear of metro cities or being in metro cities. That is also known as metrophobia. So a word can be used as a synonym or as a substitute of other words as well. Fear of loneliness or of being alone, that is called monophobia. Now mono means single, that is one. So being one only, that is also known as monophobia. Fear of filth or contamination. Filth refers to dirt. So fear of being dirty, that is known as misophobia. Fear of darkness, that is nyctophobia, because for the darkness or for the night we use the word nacht. So nyctophobia is fear of darkness. Fear of being seen in public, that is known as ophthalmophobia. Now if anyone asks you, that is fear of eyes. Now it is not fear of eyes. It is fear of being seen in public or you are stared at. So if you are in fear that somebody is staring at you, that is also a kind of fear, and that is known as ophthalmophobia. Now ophthal is a root word for eyes. So ophthalmophobia refers to fear of being seen in public. Now fear of crowd or mobs. So that is known as ochlophobia. Fear of poverty, money problem, etc. Now when someone is in fear of losing money or fear of money, that is known as paniophobia. Now pani is a root word for money and phobia is a root word for fear. So paniophobia refers to fear of poverty or fear of money problem. Now fear of ghosts. Now you must have heard that ghosts are also known as phantom. So from this word we can derive or we can learn this word, that is phasmophobia. So phasmophobia is a fear of ghosts. So let us move further. Fear of death or fear of being died, that is known as thanatophobia. So it is a fear related to death, or that what happens after death, or fear of if I die, what will happen, or if I go there, I will die. So this kind of fear is known as fear of death, and this is known as thanatophobia. Then fear of burglars or thieves, or fear of being robbed. So that is known as salarophobia. Fear of compulsive desire to steal. It is not only the fear, but also a compulsive desire to steal. Or you can say a person is in mania or he's mad about stealing things. This is known as kleptomania. So kleptomania is just a kind of mania in which a person fears that he will steal something, or he's in mania that he steals everything which he sees. So that is, it is actually not the fear, but it is actually the compulsive desire to steal, and that is known as kleptomania. Now, fear of getting fat. Now, you must have heard from many persons that he fears that he will get fat if he eats this or if he eats that. So this is known as lipophobia. So, or you can say lipophobia, because lipo refers to fatness, or lipo is a person who is fat. So lipophobia is a fear refers to being fat or fear of getting fat. Now, fear of mania for talking, that is known as logomania. Now, this is a mania for talking, when a person is in mania of talking a lot. So that is known as logomania. Fear of spiders. Now, this is known as arachnophobia. Now, this is not arachnophobia. The correct pronunciation starts with U. So it is arachnophobia. This is arachnophobia. The correct pronunciation of this word is arachnophobia. Fear of old memories. Now, this is known as memophobia. So, memories, from memories we can learn a word menemo. So, memophobia is a fear of memories, where menemo is a root word for memory and phobia is a root word for fear. Fear of flying, that is aviophobia. Now, you must have heard a word aviation, and aviation refers to study of flying aeroplanes or study of anything which is related to airplanes. Now, we must have seen the air hostess in an aeroplane, and whenever we talk about aeroplanes, we come through the word that is, we come across the word that is aviation, and from that word we can learn that fear of flying or fear of being on an aeroplane, that is known as aviophobia. Now, let us move to the next one. Fear of cats, that is known as allurophobia. Now, there is one more thing. If I talk about fear of dogs, that is known as cynophobia. Now, there are various animals and there are various phobia of different animals. So, like fear of cats, it is allurophobia. Fear of dogs, it is cynophobia. Fear of monkeys, that we'll discuss later on. So, there are various phobias related to the names of the animals. Fear of dolls. Now, what is this? Fear of dolls. Fear of dolls refers to the dolls which look like human being. And you must have seen the dolls in horror movies as well. And from that, many a person, they fear of dolls. They, by just seeing dolls, they think that they are ghosts or they are like the human beings, or they behave like human beings. So they just fear of dolls. They just fear the dolls. So fear of dolls refers to pediophobia. Now, pedio is a word for children as well, and children play with dolls. So pediophobia refers to fear of dolls. Pedio also refers to dolls. Now, fear of medicine or fear of taking medication, fear of taking drugs, or a morbid fear of drugs. Now, we know well that medicine, and from this we take a term that is pharmacy, because on our pharmaceutical store we find medicines. So pharmacy, and with this word we can learn pharmacophobia. This is pharmacophobia. Now, pharmaco refers to pharmacy or medication, and the fear of medicine is known as pharmacophobia. Now, fear of foreigners is known as xenophobia. Though it is beginning with X, it is termed as xenophobia, or it is pronounced as xenophobia. So, foreigners or strangers. If someone is a stranger and you fear of it and you fear of strangers, it means you are suffering from xenophobia. Well, fear of foreigners, fear of strangers, fear of aliens, this all is known as xenophobia. Now, let us move further. Fear of fire. Now, fear of fire is known as pyrophobia. Now, pyre refers to fire. So, the word pyre is the root word for fire. So, fire phobia is known as pyrophobia. Fear of public speaking. This is known as glossophobia. Fear of God. That is called theophobia. Now, one more thing is there, that is theology. You must have heard this word. Now, theo refers to religious. When something is related to religion. And when something is related to religion, obviously we are talking about God. And for God, we use the word theo, and theology refers to theophobia refers to fear of God, whereas theology is basically the study of religion that we will discuss in later sessions. Fear of poison, or fear of being poisoned, that somebody will give us poison, that will die after having poison, that poison is very bad in taste. So that is all about fear of poison. So when we are in fear of getting poison, fear of being poisoned, that is known as poison. And for poison, we use the word toxic. So you must have heard this word many times. Now, toxic, and from this word we can have toxicophobia. So toxicophobia refers to fear of poison or fear of being poisoned. Now let us move to the next. Fear of number 13. You must have heard from many people that they are afraid of number 13. So this is known as triskaidekaphobia. So it is triskaidekaphobia. So triskaidekaphobia. This is a long word, that is triskaidekaphobia. But the pronunciation is very simple. You can learn from here. Tris, and tris comes from try. Then kaidika or phobia. So phobia refers to fear. So you must learn this word, that is triskaideka. Then fear of germs or dirt. This is known as mysophobia. Fear of cancer, or fear of suffering from cancer, that is known as carcinophobia. So carcino comes from the word fear of cancer, from the cancer only. So fear of cancer, it is carcinophobia. Fear of thunder and lightning. This is known as astrophobia. Fear of small holes or clusters. This is known as trypophobia. Then fear of crossing bridges. When someone is in fear of crossing bridges, he don't want to cross the bridges just because he fears, that is known as gephyrophobia. This is known as gephyrophobia. Gephyrophobia means crossing of bridges, or you can say fear of crossing the bridges. So gephyro refers to the crossing of a road from one place to another, and crossing of bridges is known as gephyrophobia. Then fear of books. This is known as bibliophobia. Now you must have heard this word many times, that if somebody loves books, he is known as bibliophile, and the study of books is known as bibliology. So the fear of books is known as bibliophobia. So phobia is a root word for fear, and biblio is a root word for books. So bibliophobia refers to fear of books. Then fear of work or employment. So when someone is in fear of working all the time. So for work or employment, this is known as ergophobia. So this is ergophobia, that is fear of work or employment. Now let us move to the next one. Fear of animals. Now this is known as zoophobia. So we find animals in a zoo, and this is very simple. That is, fear of animals is known as zoophobia, because zoo contains animal and phobia is fear. So you can easily learn this word, that is zoophobia. Fear of hair. Now what kind of fear is related to hair? When you fear that your hair is damaging continuously, you are having hair fall or a huge hair fall, that is fear of losing hair. So that is known as trichophobia. Or also sometimes you must have seen people, when they see hair falling on the floor, or you can say when somebody sees fallen hair on the floor, he might get fear. So this is known as fear of hair. Now fear of snakes. So this is known as ophidiophobia, because snakes are also known as ophidio. So ophidio is a root word for snakes. Then we have a word fear of water. Now, fear of water is known as aquaphobia. Now, there is one more term for this is like hydrophobia. So we have one more term that is hydrophobia. So this is another term for fear of water. Now, as I have told you earlier as well, that there are many words for a simple word as well. For example, when we learned this word that is ophthalmophobia. Yes, for ophthalmophobia, there are many more words as well. For example, there is scaptophobia, and there are several words as well. So there are various words, or there can be various synonyms of these words as well. So now let us move further. Fear of monkeys. As I have told you that we have learned fear of cats, fear of dogs. Similarly, we have fear of monkeys. When somebody is afraid of monkeys, that fear is known as pithecophobia. Now, pitheco is basically a term which is used for monkeys, and pitheco is a term for ape, or you can say a root word for ape. So pithecophobia is related to fear of monkeys. Now, fear of coldness. When someone is afraid of having cold, of being on a cold place, so that is known as frigophobia. So this is known as frigophobia. Now, when someone is in fear of physical pain, so that is known as agliophobia. And fear of birds is known as ornithophobia. Ornitho related to birds, or you can say this is the root word for birds, and ornithophobia is a fear of birds. Also, we have a word that is ornithology. Now, ornithology refers to study of birds, because ornitho is a term used for birds. So ornithology is a study of birds, because logy refers to study. Now, in the next session, we are going to learn study only, study of various things. So this is the category of fear of various things, and there can be many. We can have various figures, various words related to phobia. There are many words like these. So we can have fear of height, fear of altitude, fear of many people, fear of losing people, fear of various animals, fear of various kind of things. So we can have various fears in ours. So there are various things. So in the next session, we'll do another category of one word substitution, and from this you can also learn various other fears which are not included here. I hope you understood all of these. Thank you very much.